This week at Hey the Parents, we're talking all about what it's like to grow up in, marry into, and raise a mixed family. Sara shares her journey of being adopted into a culturally diverse family, how she learned to embrace Jean's Haitian roots when they started dating in high school, how she now helps her children navigate their own mixed identity. We'll discuss the challenges, funny moments, cultural misunderstandings, and meaningful lessons learned along the way. Because in Hey the Parents, it's an honest discussion about raising kids. I'm Michael Haidt.
I'm Sara D.
And I'm Mike Levine.
Kids don't come with a handbook, so we need your help.
Where do babies come from?
Where do you think they come from?
Is this a kissing book?
Mama! Mama!
What?
Hi.
I learned it by watching you.
There are no rules in this house. Not like a regular mom. I'm a cool mom.
We sent them to the best boarding schools. We hired the best nannies. We did everything right.
Hey, Mom! The meatloaf!
No drinking, no drugs, no kissing, no tattoos, no piercings, no ritual animal slaughters of any kind.
Together, we can rule the galaxy as father and son.
This is Hey Other Parents, an honest, messy, imperfect show for raising kids.
Hey, welcome back. It's us again.
Hello. What's up?
Toodly-doo.
Well, toodly-doo to you, too.
Ah, so good to see you. Here we are.
Hi.
This is nice because last week was a Sunday morning, and it was last time was before Super Bowl, and right, it was before Super Bowl, and it was a Sunday morning, and it was really early, and now we're gonna flip it. We're gonna go for Sunday night. So we're so glad that you're here to hang out with Sara and I as we figure out this parenting thing. So if you're in the car, folding laundry, cooking dinner, getting organized, washing dishes are on the go, we know that you have a lot of choices for podcasts out there, so thank you for listening to ours. We'd like to send a big welcome to our new moms and dads listening, a big hearty hello and welcome back to the returning listeners who are back to put up with us for yet another episode. So if this is your first time joining us in this podcast, Hey the Parents, it is a chance for a few of us parents who decide that we need to join our efforts together to try and get through this thing, as we call it, a survival course. We pick a different theme, a different topic each week. We discuss it from the standpoint of when we were younger, what we grew up with our own parents, and then we shift on over to now as adults, where we did not get a handbook with our own kids. We talk about what we go through, we share some of our experiences, we learn from each other, and every week we feel a little bit better because we have each other and we have all of you. So if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, we'll tell you a little bit later in the show on how you get in touch with us here. And without further ado, we're going to jump right back into the main part of the podcast, and that entails a topic of the week. Sara D, this is a good one. This is all about you this week, actually. What are we talking about?
So this...
We're talking about you.
Yes. Well, talking to me all about me. My favorite topic. Okay, so this week we are talking about how I was raised in a multicultural family, also being adopted, and raising my own children, marrying someone else out of like my culture or my background, and how just kind of navigating that and just finding our identity for ourselves and as a family.
This is gonna be a good one because it's not just about like your experiences of growing up and finding your soulmate, your fella, Jean, who's awesome. It's about his family and your family, and then also raising kids and what that's like. Where it's not just as simple as having one culture, but sometimes when we blend cultures together, it's kind of really cool because you get to kind of mix a little bit of everything, and you have this awesome family that you guys have, and I cannot wait to explore that because it's gonna be a fun episode. So, Sara D, where do we start? All right. So why don't we hop in the old, we're going to go like last season, we're going to hop in the old DeLorean. So why don't we go back? Maybe you want to start with a little bit about you and kind of your adoption stuff and kind of how that ties into everything.
Yes. So I think about, when I was thinking about this episode, I was thinking of the Golden Girls, Sophia, and she's like, picture this, Sicily, 1918, So
because when you say Golden Girls, depending on which Golden Girl you chose, there's a very different flavor. So as long as you were in like Blanche, we should be in good shape.
So picture this. Honduras, 1983. There I was born. And so I was born in Honduras, and I'm actually, my background, I am indigenous from the Lenca tribe. And technically, my biological parents do not speak Spanish. So my mom and my dad, that was a love story. They met at the World Trade Center. One day at lunch, they kind of bumped into each other. So my mom is Ecuadorian, and my dad is Brooklyn Italian, as he likes to say, or used to like to say. And, they were unable to have children, so they decided to adopt, and they adopted my brother first, also from Honduras, and then they adopted me as well. So just, like we grew up in Massapequa in the 1980s, and during that time period, and Massapequa pretty much stays the same in terms of demographics. There wasn't many Spanish or Latino people around. So growing up, my dad and my mom really just wanted us to assimilate. They really wanted us to just be no different than any other child in the town. And my mom also wanted to assimilate, because that was like the big thing, is that, like you come to America and you kind of just get yourself ingrained into the culture. So we didn't grow up speaking Spanish, my brother and I. And my mom, kept her language, thankfully. And she's still very fluent, because, sometimes you can lose that as you get older and get out experience. But for the most part, I think my experience growing up on Long Island during that time was different in the sense that I think we were like known as like the family with the two adopted kids, because it was like kind of rare. We kind of blended into the neighborhood. Like my mom, my dad, like my brother, he's fairer than I was, so he was always able to say that he was Italian and Ecuadorian, and no one would like question it. He
just looked like he had like a good tan going on, almost.
Yeah, like he looked it down, like he could get away with it. He was very fair. Me, on the other hand, I am a little more tanner, so I was a little darker, and I could never, I tried to say that. I was like, oh yeah, I'm Italian Ecuadorian, and people, from strangers to just like kids, would say like, oh, that's not your kid, or like to my family, like, okay, like he makes sense, but she doesn't.
Oh, that's nice.
I know, right? Or I just had to own it. I think I always just had to own being adopted. There was never a time where I couldn't just pretend to the outside world that I was Ecuadorian and Italian. And that really, for me, never bothered me necessarily. I always embraced being adopted. My mom, my dad, I think, did a wonderful job explaining our adoption, maybe why we were, put up for adoption. But it was always that we were wanted and loved, and that, us being adopted was an act of love and a hard decision for our parents. But at the end of the day, we were like this blessing. We were a gift. So I felt like incredibly special, to be honest with you. Like I was always proud of being adopted. And that like never really bothered me, to be honest with you.
Did kids give you a hard time? So you said the kids mentioned it or they noticed it, but was that something that was like more of like making fun of you or like giving you a hard time, or was it just like it was just a thing?
It was just there. No, I think it was just there. I don't think the kid, honestly, like I went to Catholic school. I don't know if it had anything to do with it. I think they just kind of knew who we were, and like no one questioned it. Like no one really like pointed it out to me. No one like made fun of me for it. Maybe kids I didn't know. Like when my brother played like baseball, like in the like the little leagues or whatever. So we met more kids like from public school who didn't know me. They would genuinely be curious and be like, like, what are you? They would, like wondering like who my parents were, and like I point at my parents and they're like, what? I'm like, I'm adopted. Don't worry about it. They're like, oh, okay, no problem.
And that was the end of that.
And that was like the end of that. But I think like I always had to like kind of point it out. I don't want to speak too much of my brother, but he had a hard time with adoption and with his story and dealing with that. So there were times that, as horrible as it sounds, he would be like, those are my parents, and yeah, she's like the adopted sister. And I was like, oh my God, like we're both adopted. But, I had to, I know. So I always had to I covered for him in that sense, because I knew it was harder for him. So I was always like kind of just.
So you always took the hit.
I took the hit that explained everything, myself and my existence and stuff like that.
The scapegoat adopted sister.
Yes,
amazing.
Okay, so I remember one time like someone said something like I think my brother's friends like came up to me and they're like, oh, but you're the adopted one. I was like, what? I was like, oh. Yeah, me. Just me.
One? Okay, weird way to say two.
And like, listen, like, I'm laughing and I'm making like lightheartedness of it is because it's been my truth. I've lived it for so long. But for those parents who might be out there with children who are adopted or considering adoption, I think that's something you also have to consider, is that your child could take it and like own it, and there's going to be times that where a child might have a hard time with adoption, you know. And I think anyone who adopts a child, you are giving up your heart, your soul, you are opening up everything, just to have that completeness, that want of a child. And I think it's you know, listen, even your own children could reject you, that you give birth to, a biological child. But I think for people who are adopting children, you are definitely for sure putting yourself out there, I think, you know, and opening your heart to someone. So I kudos to those who are out there adopting.
Kudos, and thanks for doing it.
Yeah, no, seriously, because it's not easy, I don't think. You know, as a parent, I can think back to like my parents. I would love to, like, you know, my dad has passed and my mom, I know she has her feelings, but, you know, like, what do they really think about all this? Like, you know, like, you have two kids who are kind of different, how they dealt with adoption and how they see it is very different. You know, it can be polarizing. So, you know, I can only imagine what that's like.
It must be kind of strange, like to go through. And I think at some point we're going to have some friends on that also did adopt kids recently, which would be kind of a fun conversation to have. And I'm sure Sarah will be able to kind of dive into the questions that maybe that I wouldn't think to ask, you know what I mean? So it'd be kind of a cool conversation. And we'll definitely do a follow-up that goes specifically into that. But it's interesting because like the idea of like, you know, having like passing on like, you know, your blood and everything else and that whole thing. I know it sounds very like, you know, very like Game of Thrones and castles, but the idea is like, you know, the love is what's passed on and the stories and stuff. And that's really probably what mostly matters. And having one kid that's adopted and one kid that pretends they're not adopted is what it really comes down to.
Right. It's really awesome. But yeah, no, I think honestly, like, you know, like, I have to say, like, there were times that, like, with my parents, like, they always made sure I felt loved. Within my house, I always felt loved. I felt accepted. I didn't think I was Italian and Ecuadorian. You couldn't tell me otherwise. Right. But I knew that once I stepped out into the world, there were times like I didn't feel like I quite belonged at the same time. Like I embraced my adoption, but I also felt like a little bit of an outsider, I have to say.
Like when at cafeteria time, like where to sit, like that kind of thing, or was it like not so much that, but more like other stuff?
I think more like other stuff, because like even within my little like community that I had, like, you know, with like St. William's and Seaford that I went to, I felt fine. I felt safe there. It was like on the outside world, you know, like it was like the random person at the supermarket or at the playground, like where I think the most hurtful comments probably were like when people questioned if those were my parents. You know, or blatantly saying that's not your child. And it's like, my mom would always say, that is my child. So like, that's where I did feel sometimes like an outsider, or like, you know, growing up in Massapequa, a lot of Italians there. Yeah. So, you know, like a lot of my friends were Italian. So I'm like, yeah, like Sunday dinner and like, you know, meat, like,
come on guys, it's time for meatballs. Exactly.
Yeah. Like, or is it gravy? No, meat, you know, and like some people, you know, if they didn't know me, they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, no, us Italian. No, we're not Italian. Oh, no, I'm not.
Like, listen, I know what I'm talking about. I'm not sure what you're talking about. But it's funny because I feel like your mom, like, and your dad or whoever was in the situation is like, probably like, Jesus Christ, here we go again. Let me explain. You know, it's like,
yes. Yeah.
But you must have carried on some of that to like, I feel like that love and acceptance, I feel like that probably it became such a big part of you as like you've kind of gone through the motions of getting older and having kids, you know. That's something that doesn't leave you, I would imagine. No, I think with so when Gene and I first started dating, you know, him being Haitian, so fast forward to high school. There I was, 1990s. Also, you gotta lay the scene. So there I were, Jenko jeans. Everybody had Brendan 90210 haircuts. The flannel was in. The 90s rock music was out, and it was time for grunge. And there I was.
And there I was. Here I was. And
with my girl-sized Doc Martens as an adult.
Yes. Well, no, actually, I didn't get any Doc Martens because I did not have a job at that point to get my own stuff.
Okay.
My mom was like,
Mr. Martens instead.
Yes. the Payless versions of whatever the heck they were.
But, Mr. Martino's.
Yes, but we'll take them. So there I was, grunged out, and so I met Jean, and so I went from a very white neighborhood, and I went to Kallenberg, and Kallenberg had a wonderful population of everyone. We had Black, we had white, we had Spanish, we had Asian, and that was probably the first time, really and truly, I really felt like I belonged somewhere. Because as much as everyone was nice to me, and I can't say anyone did blatantly, okay, I guess those microaggressions are, enough, because I'm still talking about them, so they definitely left an impact. But that was the first time I really felt like I was like, wow, look at this. I'm people who look like me, or people who have similar experiences. Maybe not adoption, but at least same skin coloring, different cultures, different foods. So I met Jean, and to be honest with you, my mom was not for it. She was very against it. She was very narrow-minded. She came from Ecuador. She was from a very affluent family from Ecuador, so she was raised a certain way, as I would say. And in Latin American culture, there are some colorism, and there is some discrimination against people who are indigenous. So when she came here to America and saw, because she came here on exchange students, and then she came here to work, she came during the time of segregation. So she saw firsthand bathrooms where she was allowed to use and not use. And she is very white, so you say white passing. She had money and things like that. So she wasn't used to being discriminated upon. So for her, she didn't understand why I would want to date someone who was darker, who was of a different background, not Italian or Spanish. So she had a hard time, I have to say, with me dating Jean.
Did she think you were gonna be it was gonna be a life of difficult, things were gonna be difficult for you, or it was more just
I think so. I think life would be difficult. I think she just did. Honestly, she had her own narrow viewpoints. I think she just did not. She was judging him based on his skin color and not who he was. And for my dad didn't really care, but he did think I was going to have a harder life. He's like, Sarah, you're not going to be able, I've raised you a certain way. I don't know if you're going to date someone of a different race like this, that you're going to get the same life that you're accustomed to. And I get that as parents, there's fears of the unknown. I'm glad to say it took about, within the past 6 years for my mom to really truly accept Jean, really accept him, say hello to him. But it wasn't easy going, I have to say,
Wow.
Being married to Jean. Oh, very long road. Imagine from high school dating him, and I think my parents thought maybe it was a rebellious time. And, to be honest with you, at 16, if you're this is the guy you're going to marry and spend your life with, I probably wouldn't, I would yeah, right, okay, whatever, here today, gone tomorrow. But,
right.
But who would have known? Here we are.
Here you are. Most relationships last 4 to 5 days.
Exactly.
Yours
as
were a little bit longer.
Yeah, as a high schooler, it was ooh, a year, you're practically married. But somehow,
right.
G and I just always came back together, no matter what. We always found each other again. So, so getting to know Jean, and there was a lot of a big community in Kallenberg of Haitian people, so that I made a lot of friends who were Haitian, and getting introduced to their culture. I remember my one friend Chandra, I went to her house, and she was before to everyone, because we were doing a project, she's before you walk in, and because again it's Haitian culture, so it's not necessarily just I remember in the group that I was with, there was also a girl who was African American, and she said, okay, everyone, because you're all in her head, you're all Americans, when you say hi to my mom, you need to give her a kiss on the cheek, and before you do anything else. And I was like, all right, cool. And they're oh, all right. So I remember she was there were rules that we had to follow, and then it's my mom's gonna make us food, you have to eat the food. And I was like, and everyone's like, oh, but I'm not hungry right now. She's like, no, you need to eat the food. Like,
It's not
you
about
have
being
to.
hungry.
Yes, no, you need to eat it. There's no saying no thank you. And I was like, all right, cool. And then my greedy behind, I was like, oh my God, like, what is this? I was like, this is amazing. I was like, rice, beans, and like fried pork. I'm there, which is called griot. So, and after that, I always wanted to go to Chandra's house because I was like, you're amazing. And then your food's amazing as well. So I am there.
Just remember, you have to eat the food. Like, no problem.
Yeah, and I'm like, sure. I'm like, I'll come. Like, my stomach empty anytime. So, like, meeting with Jean's family, they were very welcoming, I have to say. They were very sweet to me and kind. I never felt any different. But there was a bit of a learning curve, I felt like, with Jean's family. Because with Haitian culture, they're very big on, and I think, like, every culture, but I guess it could be something said about American culture versus other cultures. So, like, in my family, my dad's side of the family, like, on Christmas Eve, if I was there sitting on the couch and then, like, my Aunt Nancy or Aunt Josie came through the door, they would come say hi to me. You know, like, and I would say hi to them, obviously, and stuff like that. Or my dad said, hey, Aunt Nancy and Josie are here. I would just run over and say hi. In, like, Haitian culture, it's like, if you are the youngest person, whether you came first or last, you must say hello to anyone older than you. A hug, a kiss on the cheek.
Like, you get up and you move.
Like, you got to get up. Yeah, you get up, you move, you say hello, you take things, like there's no, like, I was here first and you greet me. No, like, no. Because I was, and Jean would be like, no, you have to get up. I'm like, why? I'm like, they're supposed to come to me. I'm like, he's like, no, get up. And I was like, oh, okay, my bad. So that probably was, like, the biggest thing that was, like, very different. To a certain extent. And then I think just, like, being around Jean's family so much, like, you know, like, I started picking up some, like, what was it? I think either he said it or, like, his mom said it, was like, when you're married to a Haitian family, like, and you're not Haitian, you become Haitian. And I think that's so true because I feel like, I'm like, yes, and Haitian Independence Day. I'm like, our people, again, you get assimilated into the family. Like, you have no choice, like, almost. And it's, like, a very, like, loving way, I have to say. But Jean's, so it wasn't, like, all roses and butterflies. Like, on his side of the family, his mom did not mind me, you know, as any mom and a son might. You know, like, just, like, how long is this relationship gonna last? And, you know, like, is she worthy of my son? But Jean's aunt actually did not like me because I was not Haitian.
Oh, wow.
And yes. And then Jean said something very snarky, probably at the age of 16, like something like, I don't want to date a Haitian woman, you know, and just to get, like, just to bother her.
Yeah.
And she got so insulted because FYI, just before, like, it goes out into the universe, Jean did actually date a Haitian girl before me.
Oh, really? So you were like,
yeah,
so she was looking at you as if you were like the knee jerk reaction in the other direction.
Yeah. So, like, you know, like, so before people were like, oh, he hates himself. No, he doesn't hate himself or his culture or anything like that.
He's a self-deprecating Haitian man.
Yes. No. He is a proud Haitian man, but he just wanted to annoy his aunt very badly. He sure did.
He did a good job.
He got under her skin.
Yes.
So much so that I used to be in her crosshairs. So when I would say hi to her, she'd be like, hi. Like,
Great.
I was like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Sorry for being me here.
Being me and your stupid nephew said those things. I'm sorry.
Great. And then you pay the repercussions. That's so nice.
Yes. So, you know, like, and then, like, for whatever reason, I think with our friendship group, we had friends who come from different backgrounds and they've dated different backgrounds as well, kind of like outside of their, like, dated interracially as well. So it was like, it was kind of nice. Like, we always kind of, like, we're always around people who are, or surround ourselves with open-minded people. You know, and as much as, like, us as a couple, I can't really think, other than, like, one time being pulled over by a police officer in front of my house back in the day. And they wanted to know what we were doing. We were literally, like, sitting in front of my house, and then, like, we moved up a little bit more, and they kind of gave us a hard time until I was like, I can go into that house right now and tell my dad to come out and speak to you. But we never really faced outright racism. I think as an interracial couple, we faced, like, microaggressions you know, from either side, where maybe someone who is Latino will look at me and look at my husband and be like, oh, okay. And may not quite say something, but, you know, the looks or a little comment, but nothing like outright.
Are the looks like for who feels the heat of disapproval mostly? Is it the man? Is it the woman? Is it just because? Is it the opposite race? Do you feel like it?
I think it's like the opposite. Like, you know, like from my experience, it is sometimes. And now I feel less so, but when I was younger though, because things have changed, and you know they're changing now. But and I think that's a problem in Latin American culture. Is that there is, you know, and in Caribbean culture as well, is that there is colorism. There is like some discrimination against, you know, dating outside of your culture. So, you know, like if I'm at a store and it was either a woman or a man, they would see my husband, you know, they might kind of give a look like, oh, hit him, and like, yes, it's my husband, and, you know, and they're like, oh, okay. And it's just like disapproving. Like all your aunts and your uncles just kind of looking at you because you got a mohawk. You know, it was just like, oh, you did, like you're married to him, like, you know.
But
yes.
But I feel like that's gotta like, I guess maybe you learn and you grow, but like I feel like that's gotta put such a bad taste in your mouth when you're having a good day, or like, I don't know. I guess like, you know, doesn't make you feel too good.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, and like it's and I think that in some ways that's shaped me though as a person, is to one, ignore, and then two, to like accept other people and their differences and their life choices, because I know what it's like on the receiving end to have a stranger totally judge you, you know, and like just let people live, like, you know, listen, as long as I'm not harming anyone,
right? Like how are you impacting other people? Seriously, like just
like how, right? Like me marrying someone I love who treats me well, you know, who is my friend, and my husband
who gets off the couch to say hi. I mean, come on.
right, exactly. As long as I eat any of his aunt's foods, like what's the big deal, you know, like. And then I'm sure he too has probably faced, and maybe he doesn't share as often, or maybe sometimes he ignores it. I think Gene has like a thicker skin than I do. I'm sure he's probably faced his fair share of things, but I have to say, like, thankfully, overall, we haven't really faced outright racism, which is a blessing, you know, in a lot of ways. But, you know, also too, walking around as people of color, we do face microaggressions, you know, like there are times that like G and I were like, was that what we thought it was? And it was like, yeah, maybe, but it's not necessarily because we're together, it's just because of who we are. Like there's a gas station in my neighborhood I will never go to, because I definitely think the guy gave us a hard time. We were trying to rent a U-Haul one time.
Like that place is off the list.
Yes, we're never renting a U-Haul. I will never get my gas from that place, and that's that. But I have to say, like, for the most part, I think we've been fortunate enough to be around people who are open-minded, who are welcoming, who are loving. And I think because we give that energy out to people, you know, like you get it back. That's like my hokey little thing that's there.
But it's good. It's good. And then also, like, you know, I mean, I hate to be this way, but it's kind of nice to weed away the people that don't respect you, you know, who have these, you know, viewpoints.
Yeah, no, I think it is. I think, you know, like you don't need negativity. Like, why subject yourself to it? You can make choices, and like, I don't need to necessarily go on TikTok and like bash a company because I felt they were being racist. I just make my decisions and tell my close friends not to go to the gas station anymore. You know,
and we're all done with you.
And we're done. You know. And that's it. Like, you know, like, listen, like, you want to live your life like that and be rude and mean to people for whatever reason, that's on you. Like, you know, like, I'm not gonna let that affect my day, I think.
What about, like,
you know?
being Haitian? Like, is that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
is like, because like Haitian, you know, it's because, like, you know, obviously being from different cultures and being sort of color, like, did he feel kind of like sometimes in a weird way, like the negative attention or things he would get, like, would from a Haitian person versus being somebody who's like African American, or being like different backgrounds or different cultural differences? Like,
that's a great question. So, I think I don't want to speak for all Haitian or Caribbean
Right, you're not like the
people,
spokesperson, but like, you know what I mean?
definitely, right. But definitely, like, I remember that was probably the first time in my brain at Callenberg, I noticed that some of the kids like would tell jokes to each other, like, you know, if they're Haitian or Jamaican or Black American, and and Gene and his sister would tell you that growing up Haitian was not cool back in the day, like in the 90s, early 2000s. It was seen to be like very low on the totem pole, I guess, of social status, and now it's like cooler and it's more prevalent, like being Haitian, because there's more famous people, more you know, sports players, more.
Where were the famous
actors.
people when you were growing up? You know.
Yes, the secretary. Actually, the Biden's press secretary.
Yeah.
Okay, so like for even example, like Biden's press secretary is Haitian. She actually went to Callenberg. She was a Callenberg alumni.
Oh,
so
wow.
like yeah, so like now there are more Haitians out
like,
in the
now
world.
you come
it
along.
seems like.
Great.
Yes, but you know, like, but Gene was saying, growing up Haitian was not easy. You know, and so I think for the most part, though, again, like in my experience, you know, being an outsider, not Haitian, but you know, supporting my fellow Haitians. I don't think I don't know necessarily if he's faced discrimination per se because he's Haitian. I think just really more because of the color of his skin, sadly enough, you know. And I think for me, our experiences, I think, in life, and he and I have our debates sometimes. We talk about it, you know, because obviously his experience in the world is very different than mine, but I too have gone through things as well that are different. So growing up like in Massapequa, that again is very white, I was never pretty. I was never cute. I was always exotic. And exotic, even like at 7 years old, no one wants to be called exotic. Like,
No,
what
it
am I?
almost
Like
sounds like a weird
leopard or
category.
something?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or there's something it's off about it to call a 7-year-old that. But my dad would be like, oh, that's a compliment. That's a compliment. Like, you know, and again, like he was, you know, older. My dad they were 40 when they adopted us. So, you know, like they're a little old fashioned. I always say like they're a little old fashioned in their thinking as well. So like half the things my dad if my dad was still alive now, he would be canceled in 5 seconds. And like, but it wasn't because he was like necessarily holding like any thoughts. It's just like, you know, like just the time period.
How
he was
it's
brought up
explained,
in.
or
Yeah. So I was always exotic. So like that, or my experiences, you know, with coming across people who right away would say like, do you speak English? How many years have you been in this country? Or your English is really good, you know? And it's like,
thanks.
well, funny. Thanks. I'm like, thanks for saying that. I'm like,
you're like, your English is pretty good too, stranger. Like,
I'm like, good job.
Let's practice
I'm
together.
Like, yeah, we also. And then also like, you know, like, where are you really from? You know, and I'm like, oh, I'm
Still
from Massapequa. They're like, no. They're like, no. But where are you really from?
Oh, sorry, North
like,
Massapequa.
Right, exactly. I'm like, of North Massapequa, now South Massapequa. They're like, you know, so I would get those questions as well. So, you know, like, so always like people trying to identify who I am, you know, like, or what I am.
People have to put you in some sort of category of some sorts.
Yes, always wanted to categorize me. Which sometimes I would have fun with it, you know, like especially like I was at a party or something like that. I'd be like, I'm this, I'm that, you
Let's
know,
play
I just like say random things.
I just learned English today.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, like, you know, like I just to mess around. I'd be like, oh yeah, I just came to this country like 5 years ago. Like I would play like stupid games, like just like to have fun, because, you know, people would believe you, you know, and if you're asking this question, might as well have fun with you, because if I told you where I'm from originally and you're not believing me, then I might as well give you something out.
Here we go. From Alaska.
I'm like, here you go, you're ready.
Exactly.
I've actually said that.
Oh, really? Growing up on the farm, you know, with the igloos. Rough.
Yes, yep, totally.
So maybe we'll zoom. Let's zoom forward a little bit. Maybe you know.
Yes, let's do it.
You got 2 beautiful children. You're awesome kids.
Yes.
And you know, you got married and all that good stuff, and you know, got the kiddos now.
Yes.
So maybe we could talk a little bit about that now.
So I think raising kid, I think that was like my biggest concern, because as much as I was like, I'm dating who I love and we're gonna get married and it's gonna be this great life, when we were first pregnant with Sophia, I did start thinking about how am I going to raise her in this world, because I knew being adopted, yes, I got Italian traditions and culture and Ecuadorian traditions and cultures, but I also know that once this child comes into the world, that they're going to look at me and they're going to say, you're not Italian or Ecuadorian, and you're something else. And they're going to look at my husband and say, well, she's definitely Haitian, so what's, they're always going to try to pinpoint what she is. So when the kids got old enough, and actually the conversation happened funnily enough at the public pool.
Oh, of all places. Great.
Yeah.
When you're wearing a bathing suit and you're exposed enough. Great timing. Hi, everyone.
I think another sweet little child came over. And, we're just talking to Sophia, and I think the mom and I started talking, and I think once again the question was, "What are you guys?" And I don't know. Also, again, I get into my moods where I'm either gonna be like Ecuadorian Italian, or I'm just gonna tell you my whole life story. So it depends on the mood you catch me in.
It's like Slumdog Millionaire. All of a sudden, it's like a whole.
Yeah. I'm like, you seem nice enough. I'm gonna tell you my whole story. So I'm like, sit back, lady.
How long do you have, lady?
Yeah, we're in the kiddie pool. We're trapped together. So I told her our stories, and I think actually the kids wandered over and they overheard my mom, and Sophia was like, "What? What am I?" And I was like, "Oh, my bad. I didn't really have this conversation with you yet."
Since you're here,
so
say
don't
well.
do that. Right? Say well. You too. Hey, welcome to your life.
All of a sudden, you have 12 kids in the pool sitting by your feet, like.
I'm like, picture this, 1980.
Exactly.
So. I think you probably should have those conversations with your child before he starts spilling the beans to strangers.
At the public pool.
At the public pool. But, I think I explained to the kids. I said, hey, listen, mom is called this thing adopted. I'm adopted. Abuela is this. Grandpa was that. And there are, you'll see, we carry the traditions of Sunday meals, which also was a Haitian thing, too. So look at that. Italians and Haitians have a lot of things in common. And just different foods being served.
And eating, whether you're hungry or not, it still feels if it's both.
Exactly. If you listen, I feel like every culture says if you say I'm full, and they just keep piling on more food on your plate. I think that's pretty much universal. So, I explained to the kids. I said, listen, I am Honduran. People are gonna always see me as Honduran because I guess I swear to God, when I tell people, oh, I'm Ecuadorian, no, you're not. I guess they're as the most non-Latino person in the world, I feel like I necessarily can't tell the difference to a certain extent. Some people could tell by accents. They could tell by even where you're from different parts of each country. So there are people I've met who, one, love to tell me that I'm not my parents' child, and two, who love to tell me that I'm not Ecuadorian.
Thanks.
So I have to be like, okay, you're right. The jig is up. I'm not Ecuadorian.
All right, hold on. Let me just take out my 23andMe. Just hold, please.
Wait, hang on a second. Let me validate who I am. So I was like, they're going to look at me and say, you're Honduran. I was like, so you can, for just simplicity purposes, say you're Haitian and Honduran. Double H. It's pretty cool.
Check two boxes.
Yes, and then people, if you want to tell them that your mom's actually adopted, she's Honduran, but she's actually adopted, and these, because then if you meet Abuela is gonna look way different than mom. So it gets complicated. But Sophia, I think, really embraces being Haitian and Honduran, and I don't think she really gets into the nitty gritty of the background story. Mm-hmm. Juju Bean, on the other hand, he's he is 23andMe. He's we are 73% this. We are 85% that. So he loves to give all of his background.
1.378557.
Right, which bless his heart. So again, it's kind of just just whatever I think your kids are comfortable with, how they're going to identify. And at the end of the day, when dealing with talking about multiculturalism and racism as well, is that at the end of the day, they will be, and we tell our kids that they're going to be seen as Black children first, probably, because people are going to see them based upon their skin. They can probably see as them Black children, or they're going to say, what are you? So we've prepared them for those things. One, to know, unfortunately, the rules are different for people of color, in terms of how you carry yourself in public, what you can say and not say, and to be aware of those things. And also to the question of what are you is you can give them the long story or just the short story, and you're not insulting me. Because I think they were concerned about that. It's like, like you're like shying away or being ashamed of like their mom. And it's like, no, that's not it. Like, I just, for simplicity purposes, like, you don't have to tell every stranger. You don't have to be like mom who tells every stranger her life story or not, or a fake story, like you could just be who you are. And I think, quite honestly, they're probably raised more Haitian as is, because Gene's family is very much involved in his life, and we're involved. Unfortunately, my mom's family, I'm not as close to, because most of them have remained in Ecuador, and those who are in the United States, they're in Florida, so I don't get to see them often, which is sad. But I do keep in contact with them, like on the phone and stuff like that. And then with my dad's side of the family, after he passed, it was like, long story short, we just became estranged, unfortunately. So unfortunately, they don't get to see that side of the family either. And also too, like, quite like honestly, like when I was little, I was probably like 5, let's say, and I was thinking of my cousins babysitting us. They were like in their 20s. So they're
it was already a big age gap. Yeah.
Yeah, like they're like in their 60s, 70s, And then their kids, they're like a good 15 years younger than me. So like we were just
like a weird like age thing going on.
Yeah, huge weird age gaps, like so that also contributed to us being estranged as well. Not necessarily because of my life choices, I have to say. Like I'm not gonna put that on them at all. I just think family drama, and you gotta pick a side sometimes. So unfortunately, like for me, my family ties aren't as strong, so they tend to be, I think, raised more Haitian, which is perfectly fine with me. And like the kids, because they are ambiguous looking, they are tan, they have curly hair. Sophia's gotten like, oh, are you Dominican? And Julian's gotten, are you Samoan?
Oh my god, that's so funny.
which we laugh about.
I know, because it's like
he's actually
he's like straight up something out of Moana.
Yes. So which he I guess he's more like me in some ways, because he really does play up sometimes, being different backgrounds. I think he did say like one time that he was pretending he was Jamaican at one point. Just to mess around.
I gotta hear that fake Jamaican accent from Juju.
Oh god. Probably right. But yeah, like so he likes to play around too.
It's from Montanui. It's fine.
Yes, Montanui. He's like, oh yes, you might have heard me, Bowie. He's like, I am searching for the heart to feedy.
It was in my ramen noodles after all.
Yes, here it was. But yeah, like I think they are. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer raising children who are biracial or multicultural or I think it's what's comfortable for you. What's gonna, like I think at the end of the day, I hope I'm raising them to just be happy with who they are at the end of the day. And like, yes, like skin color and culture is super important. But at the end of the day, I want them to be confident people, nice people. And I hope that shows with them, and I think that's how I've always tried to live my life as well. Is not necessarily to have these identities define who I am all the time,
Definitely.
It's there. And people want to define me by those things, but at the same time, I don't know. It always has led me to think about what is identity.
Yeah.
I think that's always been like the biggest question. It's like, what is identity? Because I think, like I said, like I've faced so many different strange situations. Nice situations, sad situations, mean situations. Like to put in very simple terms. Like I don't know. I just, my mission in life is that, to give out acceptance to people, because if there's someone out there who's like me, whose things are like a little more complicated, that they know that there's like someone else out there who's, like, got you.
It's funny because I could say, like, from us being friends, I could feel like, I see you sometimes like in situations that like would give me major like stress, and it would be on my face, and I'm like, and you're like, and I feel like I feel like just having these variety of experiences, and I can't speak for you, but I feel like the range of things you put up with, or you prepare yourself for, or you kind of like have to brace yourself with, or have this like Batman utility belt of things you have to say if given a moment, like certain things that maybe aren't as quite important for stress levels, maybe you just kind of let go, or that might just be Sara D in general.
I think so. I think it's a little bit of both. I think my nature is to be kind of like go with the flow, but also like learning to speak up when I need to speak up, because that's been uncomfortable. Like that's part of like growing up, and like, like owning your womanhood and things of that nature. But then I think also too, because I think I just face so many different things where it's like people are going to do what they want to do at the end of the day. Yeah. They're going to
like you. They're not going to like you.
They're not right. And it's like, you really don't have control of it. So either you're going to like have a little fun with it, or you're going to, like stick up for yourself when you need it, So I think it's choosing those right moments.
On a fun note, have you guys, because it always comes down to food. It should always come down to food. Have there been any sort of like mixed, like cultural things that end up on a plate? Like, have you ever taken sides from different parts of your culture growing up? Like, were you mixed with like food from Jean's side and...
Oh yeah, that's Thanksgiving.
Oh, it is.
So
it is.
Thanksgiving.
Okay, I love it.
Oh my god. So we got the lasagna going, like the Italian lasagna.
Oh, I love this.
Jean's aunt makes a Caribbean lasagna. Oh my god, that's so good. I don't know what she puts in it. It's delicious. But so I make like the lasagna my dad used to make. She makes hers.
Oh, that's sweet.
We have like a lot of like, we have griot, which is a fried pork. We have 2 different rices. That's called black rice. That's made with like a janjan. It's like a mushroom, and so it makes it black. And then we have just like a rice and beans, and a beet salad. And then I'll make for like a pernil perhaps, or we'll have turkey. And then we get like into like different stuff. So then like Jean's mom used to make collard greens, which they're not Southern. They were, but she just loved it. So she learned how to make it. And like I would make more like a traditional American like sides, like stuffing and things like that. So like on our plates is like, it is a mix of a whole bunch of different cultures, and they all taste so good together. That. I have to say,
that's so cool.
It's delicious. Yes.
Because if you're gonna get representation of all sides, it's gonna happen that holiday. That's all gonna happen. Yes. I think it's so cool.
It's gonna happen. Like you've had like little flags for each thing, because like even like the
like a different flag that categorizes it. Like some dishes might have 3 flags, some have 1, some some just have a Grinch symbol on it. Some's like question mark.
Exactly. It's just got like little bottle UN right there on your plate. It's delicious.
Oh man, I love this. This has been a really cool conversation. I'm glad that Sara D was comfortable with this whole thing and opening up, and we got like a sense of, because I mean we do our show. You guys, we tell you little stuff, but like we never really get to focus in on topics like big ones like this. So this is really cool. I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we did too. Thank you for giving me the space to like share my story. And I just hope that like I don't know if we like gave an answer or solved the problem or anything like that, but I just hope that if there's families out there, who are, again, just different cultures, different backgrounds, ethnicities, races that are together, like that, there's no right or wrong answer, I think the biggest thing is that, anyone who's with children and with their partners, that those families give the most important part is that the home is a safe spot for them to be who they really truly are, and whatever that might be.
I like that. And you're no doubt don't need to worry about trying to be accepted by the people that you need to try too hard to be accepted by. I feel like you'll be embraced by the people that are the right people, and they have to try so hard, right?
Yep, I think that's exactly it.
All right, so the question this week is So the question this week is, if you have a mixed family, How do you blend traditions? We'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to answer this question, have comments, questions for the show. You can touch with us one of three ways. One, you can leave a message on Hey the Parents voicemail line. Two, you can email the show. Or three, you can check our socials. All that information is on the show notes. So we're back for this part of the show. It is called Time to Unplug. This is where we talk about things that are going on outside of our children, because sometimes you just have to have something for ourselves or with our spouses. It gives us a chance to decompress, because you'll be a better we if you take care of me. Let's start with Sara D.
Hey, what's up? So, this week I was, a friend of mine from work gave me a recommendation to watch Almost Pregnant. It is on Netflix. It has Amy Schumer in it. And I have to say, it was a very silly, lighthearted movie. Definitely recommend. You want to sit there on this nice long break that we have for February, to sit back and chill, relax, and have good laugh out loud moments. I recommend it.
Oh, sick. So that's like a good hour and a half and you're done.
Hour and a half, fold some laundry, do whatever.
I like that. So, all right, I may have to check it out. And you liked it? Did you think it was worth watching?
Yes, it's definitely, I hate to say it, it's like a chick flick, but it's definitely funny. It's good.
But it's got some like jokes for the spouses hanging out for the chick flicks too.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Like sometimes it like borders on both, and you're like, "What are you watching?" I'm just gonna play with my iPad, and all of a sudden you look over like, all right, "iPad's down, paying attention."
Yes.
Does it fit that? Does it fit? Does the thing?
It's like, yes, Rachel puts it on. You kind of sit back and you do your thing, and then you'll have a couple of laughs here and there.
And all of a sudden I'm like, "Who's that? Who's this? Wait, who's she?" Yeah, and all of a sudden you're in, right?
Yes, exactly.
All right, so I had a video game. I'm not gonna talk about it yet because I did. Last week I talked about Fallout, the TV show. I finished it because this is what happens when you watch too much TV late at night. You just finish the whole thing in 1 week. I want to report back, and I will say I really liked it, and I think it was really, really good. And it was so, oh my God, it was so dark. It was so incredibly dark. But the thing that I liked about Fallout, and I don't know if I kind of made this when I made this reference when I was talking about it last week, was that it has that like sort of odd humor in like a really sarcastic, dark kind of way, which makes the whole thing kind of lighter than it really should be. Because it's like, post-apocalyptic, there's radiation, people's limbs are falling off, there's these people that are like, they're called ghouls that are basically dead but still alive, and it's crazy, all this stuff. But basically, you find out in the end of the first season a lot of the things that were like maybe alluded to in the episode that in the beginning that I kind of was almost expecting not to find out until maybe the second or third season. But I will tell people that if they're willing to put in the legwork watching the show, one season, a lot of really cool and interesting stories kind of tie together. And when you find out some of the things that maybe you feel like you might not get answers to, but when you do get the answers to them, you're going to be like, no way. Oh my God, that's crazy. So I was talking to some couple people that did play the Fallout games, and this fits within the context of the whole Fallout universe. These characters and stories aren't actually like the ones in the video games. So like in some ways, if you know the games, you'll be kind of into it, you know what's going on. But if people that didn't play the games, they will understand within the context of what goes on after the first show. So I will say, well worth the ride. I loved it. Those of you who like The Last of Us, but maybe with like a little bit more humor mixed into it, will probably find this to be good. Just as nasty, but pretty good. So I think it's definitely a thumbs up, and I will tell you about Animal Well next week. But I think we're just about out of time on this episode. It's been so much fun hanging out with Sara D as we talked about mixed families, growing up, Sunday meatballs, coming all together. Hungry or not hungry, it's time for the Haitian food. So it is a really cool episode sitting here and getting to hear all about Sara. I definitely heard some things today when we talked about things I never even heard before. So this is a very cool episode. We'd like to take a moment to thank our listeners and supporters for donating to the show. If you want to help support this show so we keep making episodes like this one, we have a link to donate in the show notes. If you don't have the means to do so, we always appreciate when you tell other people about this podcast. We could have more listeners, and maybe we can learn from them. They can learn from us in this growing community. If you get a chance, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We can't wait to explore this parenting thing again with you next week on Hey the Parents, because every week is an honest discussion about raising kids. Don't forget to hug your kids and charge those Chromebooks. That's going to do it for me and for Sara, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Hey the Parents is produced by Mike Levine, Sara Desravines, and me, Michael Haidt. I edit, mix our show. Our intro voice recording was done by the one and only Coltrane. If you like our show, we hope you'll consider going to the show notes and help support the podcast. Check the show notes for social media information and contacts, and we look forward to seeing you next time.